When I reviewed the new Eureka Mignon Oro single-dose grinder recently, I struggled to publish the video in time for some last-minute Christmas shopping decisions. There were a few points that I meant to raise but didn't. They were in my notes, but they didn't make it to the voiceover script. Entirely my fault. So today I'll start by showing you those outstanding issues. Then I'll introduce an accessory that I really like, and after that I'll discuss Eureka's response to the original review, including a few positive changes that they've agreed to make in the future. I also want to talk about the aesthetic experience, especially regarding touch points and vibration, and in comparison to the Niche Zero. Along the way, I'll recap the problems that persist and how I'm dealing with them. So make yourself comfortable while our single-dose adventure continues.
Oh my God.
It's like a miracle.
The first item I forgot to mention is that the small dosing cup fits an AeroPress perfectly. Very nice, very tidy. The big cup does too, but I'll get to that in a bit. The second thing I forgot to mention is that the metal chute liner protrudes below the elephant's trunk and its edge is poorly finished. I don't know if you can see it clearly. I'm doing my best. I'm a culinary polymath, not a cinematographer. It feels unpleasant and could potentially scratch you. A few seconds of polishing is all that would be needed. This will remind you of the hopper gate valve, which I covered previously, and which was truly unpleasant to touch before I fixed it. When I reviewed the Specialita, which I happen to love in general, I complained about the portafilter rest. Every edge and corner on this thing will scratch or cut you. For God's sake, Eureka, tumble them or glass bead them or something. It doesn't take much. You can do them in bulk. It's one small extra step that can make a big difference in a customer's impression of your company and in their daily experience using the product. This feels like a recurring issue brought about by designing and building according to a predetermined price. This is the 80-gram dosing cup, and it's as handsome as the small one. In fact, when I take in the overall proportions, I prefer this one visually. I'm not a fan of the big steel puck here. This looks more natural. It's beautifully finished with a smooth edge. This is something you want to touch. It's meant for pour-over, but it can certainly be used for espresso. Well, it fits my 58mm robot basket, which is, admittedly, quite deep. I'm sure it would work with a smaller diameter basket of standard depth. It also fits an AeroPress perfectly, as if they were meant for each other. Because it's just right for my portafilter and my AeroPress, and obviously there are no issues with pour-over, I'll probably use it exclusively. I said previously that Eureka ought to include both cups in the box. I had to buy this separately, and while it wasn't expensive, the shipping charge nearly doubled the price, and the inconvenience of ordering a separate thing to make my new grinder work properly was irritating. I wanted to order both items together to avoid the separate freight costs, but the reseller I bought the grinder from didn't carry the cup. Eureka's response to my first review was substantial, and I'll link to it in the description so that you can read it through if you like. There was some good news. First, they said that the issue with the new bean hopper and bellows being incompatible with older Mignons was a temporary one, and that an upcoming production run will solve it. That means that you'll be able to buy the Oro single-dose bean hopper and bellows and fit them to any Mignon series grinder, which I think is great. Second, there will be an additional polishing step for the gate valve so that it operates more smoothly and feels better to the touch. Again, great news. Third, the hopper lid dimensions have been tweaked to create a better fit between it and the hopper. I had trouble with that earlier, as some of you will recall, so that's good. Fourth, I had a problem with the bellows falling off the hopper easily. Now, Eureka says they've tested this and found that it fits well. That has not been my experience. These bristles are almost as soft as a cosmetics brush, and yet that's all I need to unseat it. Unfortunately, I find the bellows necessary to accommodate pour-over doses in the 40 to 50 gram range. So I want the bellows in place all the time. Adhesives are clearly unsuitable. I think my best bet would be some sort of clamp, and zip ties come to mind. But as you can see, this is not a solution. I think if this gets too tight, it will stretch the rubber and make it even looser. Of course, if it's not tight enough, the bellows will be too easy to upset. So if you're having this problem too, I'm afraid I can't offer a fix. I consider this a temporary dodge. I'm living with it, but not loving it, although it has been working so far. I think the device is visually pleasing from every angle. But aesthetic appreciation involves more than what meets the eye. All of our senses might be involved. And this gadget doesn't feel good and it doesn't sound good. It has sharp, rough edges in places where it shouldn't. You know, places you touch, and it vibrates too much. Now let's do a subjective test. I'll use my Zoom recorder and we'll listen. This is an audible analog representation of the vibration that you can feel through the adjustment knob when the machine is running with no load. The cup is a simple transducer, turning mechanical movement into sound. There's no objective science going on here. We're just considering the user experience. I promise to keep the mic distance consistent at 10 inches and all relevant audio settings the same. It sounds awful, doesn't it? Let me tell you, it feels awful too. The motor really thrashes. Now I'll put some nice dense foam in here to limit its travel. Same audio settings, same mic distance, and yeah, it's not as bad, but it's still unacceptable to me. This is a subjective test, but it's fair and it's important. Do you want this device in your kitchen? Do you want to touch it and listen to it first thing in the morning? I don't know. How do you feel about your orbital sander at 6 a.m.? Let's look at the niche 0. Every surface is smooth, every plane is curved, every edge is soft. Nothing rattles, nothing buzzes, nothing shakes. There are no corners. There is nothing you won't happily touch. This is a home machine that yields professional results. To me, this is what the word prosumer ought to mean. You know, if it really has to exist. The only change I've made is to apply a little PTFE or Teflon tape to the adjustment threads to reduce lash and add some smooth resistance to turning, which just feels better to me. There's a safety interlock to prevent the motor from running when the lid is open, so really it's safe enough for a child, and easy enough as well. Yet it grinds like a commercial machine. Eureka's entire Mignon range is, well, more fiddly. The Oro single dose is not a home appliance. It's a commercial machine fitted somewhat awkwardly into a home user package within the constraints of a predetermined price. The major components are all heavy duty, but the package details have yet to be fully worked out. The motor is clearly not happy with the lean angle. I have doubts about its durability in this tilted configuration. And I would say that the motor thrashing disqualifies it for any sort of commercial use, which is a pity because otherwise it would work nicely in a low-volume shop. Now, since Eureka told me that they're addressing several of these issues, I'm going to make them an offer. I'll return this grinder to the factory in exchange for an updated one when they believe they've got the final corrected version. I'll then make a detailed video documenting what's been fixed. I'll make a charitable donation to Doctors Without Borders on Eureka's behalf to match the cost of cross-shipping plus any price difference between the two models so that we stay even and the Wired Gourmet can remain, as always, free of coffee-related sponsorships, conflicts of interest, or any hints thereof. Well, that's about all for today. Next time, we're taking a deep dive into V60 brewing with a few insights and techniques that you will not have encountered anywhere else. So keep in touch. Cheers!